Hi, good afternoon. So this live is for the Cape Unit 2 students. Your exams is tomorrow. So come on, let's do some revision. I'm just getting organized and telling a couple students who asked me. Hi, Wes. So y'all, I'm sorry about starting later today. I went a little bit longer with Form 5 CSEC because I got home late, so I didn't start at the usual 5 o'clock time, and I was supposed to start you all at 6. So I am sorry about that. So, some things, right? Let me just message my CAPE students and let them know that I'm online so that they can come on quickly, and then I'll start. So, Wes, did you get my email? Send me an email so that so that send me an email so that I can send you the CAPE review or reports. Is that what you wanted? Send it to me and I will be able to email you. I'm typing it in the chat so that you will see it. Anybody else need the CAPE reports? Let me know and I will send it out to you. All right, so we can start. I think they are there. And I'm going to pull up the reports for you all to have a glance at it to see what it looks like. All right, so you're seeing, so you have the syllabus, and then of course they give you the report. So the first one that they have is 2018. So let's work through the 2018. If you all have some time, it will be good so that we can go through as much as we can. I don't know how much practice you all got with Mapwork, but I know during this time it was difficult for a lot of teachers to do map work, but CXC is going full ahead with map work, so we just have to try to prepare for it as best as possible. I went to the Unit 1 exam and they brought us in kits map. So I know for sure that a map is going to be on your exam. All right. So are you all seeing the? You all are not seeing it. Let me show it now. Are you all seeing it? You all should be able to see it now. The reports. Right. So that is what we're gonna. The reporters, what they give out every year at the end of the CAPE exam and CXC exam, they do a report. And on the report, they give you like um, short answers, or they give you an idea of how they wanted you all to answer the questions, right? So if we don't have the actual answer sheet, what I do is I look at the report to see what they wanted, and I will see why exactly they your answer probably was, a bit not as accurate, and I would try to use the report to guide how I mark your essays and stuff like that. So let me see if I can close off this so that you all can see the report. Is it better now? So I think it's Wes asking me about vegetation. So in terms of the 2018 past paper, I have it up here. So the 2018 past paper, they asked about vegetation, and CXC did not state that maps are on the broad topics. They did for CX for CSEC, but not CAPE. So very strange. But they brought a map. Thankfully, I did a little map work with the lower six and the upper six when you all came out. But I don't think, a lot of students are sufficiently prepared for that. So it's a map of Jamaica on the 2018. And because I don't have that particular map as well, we're just going to have to try to go through it as best as we can. Everybody understand that? So we go through what they said in the past papers itself, and based on the question, like what you will have to do. All right. So the first question, right? They ask you all. So they give a grid reference from the map, and they ask you all to locate two factors that could cause local variation in the type of vegetation along a transect from the northwest to the southeast corner of the grid. So basically, this is factors in terms of the line transect or a belt transect that you would do, or a quadrat, right? In terms of vegetation, you use the quadrat method or the line transect method to collect vegetation in terms of the methodology. You all understand that? Everybody understand how you do the line transect? So the line transect is simple. You draw a line. Well, in terms of not drawing a line, but it would be imaginary. You measure at least 30 meters, or most time it's 30 meters or 50 meters, and then they would sample along the line the vegetation, right? With the quadrat, what they do, remember that is an actual square, and of course you throw, right? If it is at every 2 meters or so forth, sometimes you could have a marker, or it is randomly done, and then you identify the vegetation within that quad that quadrant, the quadrant. Everybody understand that? So factors that may affect local variation in the type of soil along the transect may be what? Do you all have in terms of book, what book do you all use? The New Integrated Geography, that is by Sheldon Blesdell, Mr. Sheldon Blesdell. That is what I use. So if you go to that page in terms of the methodology for soils. Let me tell you the exact page so that you can go through the method if you're not familiar with line transect. Why am I not seeing it all of a sudden? It's supposed to be. So soil fieldwork begins on page 239. On page 239, you should see that on page 239. Right. So what do you think are two factors that could cause a local variation in vegetation type along a transit? So in terms of the questioning, they're going to be asking you this from the map, but this is 2018. So if you have the 2018 paper, you can pull it up. So in the report, you will see candidates were expected to state the variation of vegetation in 5 to 6 may have been caused by difference in soil moisture, relief aspect, and human activities. So those are basically the factors that influence vegetation type. So the soil type, the soil moisture, which is the amount of water, relief, right? The aspect in terms of the aspect is which in terms of way which direction the slope is facing, right? If it's the leeward side, the windward side, if it's receiving rain or less rain. And human activities, of course, could account for that variation. Everybody understand that? Very good. So I seen differences in the soil profile. So Roshanda, you you have to be, if it's localized, it can be climate, right? Remember, climate is more um global. So you relief is good, the parent material is good answers. um in terms of differences in the soil profile, Adela, you have to be specific. So it would be soil type, right? You're seeing that in the, can you see the answer? So soil moisture, soil relief aspect, human activity. So remember that if they ask you a question like that, right? You'll have the 2018 paper. The second paper, the second question says, state two characteristics of each of the factors named in one above that could be used, that could cause variation in type of vegetation. So state two characteristics. So you explain in soil. So how would you explain soil? And West just stated the parent material, right? So you know the parent material gives you the type of soil. So you would explain that in terms of characteristics. You all understand that? What about soil moisture? What about soil moisture? Are you all seeing the right? So oversaturation of soil, right, can lead to leaching of minerals, which means that minerals can be lost from the soil and so forth. Permeability, no, violent soil moisture has to do with the amount of water in the soil, right? The water content in the soil, right? And remember, you have the upward movement of minerals through the soil, right? And you also have the downward movement. So you have elevation with the eye and elevation, right? And all of that has to do with the downward movement, and then the upward movement is capillary action. But remember, this question, this is when you go into soils itself. But on the map, they're going to ask you to look at the map and identify certain things. So in the report, you see that they're saying here, right? The northwest grid was closer to rivers. So, in terms of soil moisture, you would see a higher water table so that soils can be moist. Compare that, then compare to the southeast of the map that had less rivers. So, when you talk about soil moisture in this context of the actual water content and you're looking at the map, you're going to look for rivers, which is, of course, a source of water availability. We know that from CSEC, we say rivers used as a source of irrigation. Everybody follow me with respect to that? Or am I moving too fast? So you look for rivers. So they said, okay, the presence of more rivers in the area will suggest, of course, a higher water table, which would influence it, as opposed to the another area that lack rivers or high density of rivers on the map. Are you all okay with that? Right. So when you talk about slopes in terms of relief, when we talk about relief on the map, what are you going to look for in terms of relief on the map? What are you going to look for in terms of relief on the map? When you get this map and they ask you to identify the characteristics again, you identify the characteristics. Now you're looking on the map. In terms of relief, what are you going to look for? How would you be able to tell which part of the map is steep to which part of the map is flat? What gives us that indication on the map? The contours, very good, Ayula. So the steeper the contours, right? The closer the contours, the steeper the relief of the land is, right? The further away or the distance between the contour lines, the gentler the land is. So in terms of relief, that is how you would be able to tell, right? So it's contours. Remember the closeness of the contours. Also, you can be able to tell it by spot height, which is a dot or a number, and then trigonometrical stations will tell you that triangle with the dot will tell you the height of the land as well. And also, if you remember from CSEC, how to identify um, valleys. So you would see on either side a river running through, and then you would see, of course, the the on either side of the rivers, the contours get very steep. So what with soils, how soils differ, and how vegetation in terms of slopes would differ in terms of steep and flat. In terms of steepness of the slope and on flat slope, how vegetation will be impacted in terms of gentle slopes. Okay, Wes, in terms of flatland being more waterlogged, in terms of influencing the vegetation, very good. Vegetation on slopes is thin. That is what I wanted you to point out. Whereas on flatter land, um, the not necessarily thin, but the soil itself are thinner on the slope. Whereas on flat land, it you have steeper soils, deeper soils, I should say, erosion as well, and this can influence the vegetation. Good. Flatland retain more water, good for cultivation of rice and so forth. Right? So you're gonna look at that in terms of rugged terrain, topography, which is steep and has a lot of depressions, right? They may have less um, thin soils and of course less vegetation, whereas on the flatland you might have deeper soil that will give you more vegetation. What about aspect? Aspect is the direction in which the slope is facing, and it will influence the weather elements in terms of the amount of rain, the amount of sunshine. So we know about leeward facing slopes and windward facing slopes, how that influences vegetation, right? So violin on flat land, you tend to have deeper soils, right? Whereas on on steep land, the soils tend to be a bit thinner. Also, um, you really have more natural vegetation in mountainous areas, so you will have more forests, etc. But in terms of like agriculture and stuff, um, it's more difficult to grow because of the fertility of the soil as well, right? So deeper soils on flat terrain, gentle slopes. What about aspect? Aspect is the direction in which the slope is facing. So we talk about leeward facing slopes and windward facing slopes in terms of receiving sunlight, rainfall, how that influences vegetation. So you look on your map and you're going to look at the slope, right? Very good. So, yes, Adela, but I want you all to be specific in terms of, I need you all to tell me in terms of the leeward facing and the windward facing slope. Which slopes receive more rainfall and sunlight? Do you all know? which one is more moist, that receive more moisture, and so leeward mountain slopes, right? Leeward mountain slopes, they have less rain. The windward receives more moisture. So it's the other way around, Adela, right? So the leeward sides of mountains tend to have more dry, warm climates, whereas the windward side tends to give you more rain. So remember that. So vegetation will, of course, thrive. So on the map, this may be a bit difficult to tell which side is the leeward facing slope or the windward facing slope, but it depends on also the country that they bring. You would be able to know, right? Because we have what we call the leeward islands and the windward islands. So, and give more dry vegetation, especially in the dry season. The violin, that is correct, right? On the map, on the map, you see, the thing is, I don't even have a map in front of me to see how I can watch the map, this particular map, um and see what they have. So it all depends on what they give you on the map. You would be able. So you're looking at whether the valley, right? So the leeward side is what we call the rain shadow side. So it is it really has this rain shadow, whereas the windward side you get more rain, right? So the leeward side, it's kind of difficult to tell if I don't have a map, but let me look at another map and I will tell you, right? Human activities. What about human activities now? This one is a bit straightforward. What human activities would you have? Thank you, Violin. What about human activities? This one is quite straightforward. Human activities. So on the map, you would be looking for what that would indicate human activities on the map. So choose ones that are easier to identify. Mining, very good. And you would see this by quarrying, very good. Crop cultivation, farming, very good. And how does that influence vegetation? Now, how does that influence vegetation? So what they're saying here, right? On the map, they talked about the proximity to being close to mixed cultivation, where you have practicing of small farms, and they are saying that The closer it is to that, would have suggested that it would have disrupted or disturbed the natural vegetation, meaning, of course, you clear natural vegetation to practice agriculture. And on the map, they said further away from human influence in terms of cultivation, you see that there's undisturbed forest, so you have more forested vegetation, right? And they stated like southeast, they talk about agricultural practices may cause fires, deforestation in the southeast. So some of this may, in terms of practices, they are referring to the slash and burn technique that will cause that is used to clear the land, right? Everybody understand that? So that is with respect to that. The other question that came on the map, I don't know if you could pull up the questions because I can't show two documents at once. Give two reasons why natural vegetation should be preserved in the grid. So um, this is a straightforward question. This speaks to soil conservation. So soil conservation is one of the broad topics. Why should natural vegetation be preserved? And this is question three. Why? Two reasons why natural vegetation should be preserved. So let me know. Natural vegetation like the Aripo savannas, yes. Natural vegetation, they also referring to forests. So forest reserve, why is maintaining forests important? That is why what they are asking you on the map. So on the map, you look, you see where the forested areas are. Why is it important? Or whatever. It may also be swamp or mangroves, right? Why are these type of natural vegetation important? Why is that type of natural vegetation important? So in terms of conservation, why is important? Prevent coastal erosion, very good. So not necessarily swamps, but mangroves, right? Mangroves to reduce soil erosion. Very good, Adela, for maintaining the balance in the ecosystems, right? Natural ecosystems, and to reduce soil erosion. Also, what about these natural vegetation? What is the main role? Would humans be able to exist on planets if we didn't have natural vegetation? Do you all think humans could exist? What is that service that natural vegetation provides for us? Yes, 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 Amanda. Service yes, but the, you all need to hit the point. One of the most important things. So I just said humans will not be able to survive on planet Earth. Very good. It is a carbon sink, right? So trees, trees serve as carbon sinks to sequence that carbon dioxide out our atmosphere and convert it into oxygen for us to breathe. So without that, very good, Justin, also food, right? So you look on the map and you see. So in the report, what they have here provides ecosystem services. So we know what are ecosystem services because you're listed some. So things like, many people listed the ecosystem service that we have in terms of shoreline protection. It provides us with food, um, as form as recreation, ecotourism, as Rashonda is saying, it generates revenue. Um, Ecosystem service, that's air purification, oxygen, right? So ecosystem services, right? You're seeing these things on the on the screen. Carbon 6 contributes to rainfall. Very, very important. A lot of the time we forget that forests, rainforests are called rainforests because they have that function of the watersheds that provides us with with water. So every tap in a house, right? Of course, that source of water is coming from some um dam or some some watershed that was dam, and you get water in your home, right? So rainforests produce rainfall, and without them, of course, um, we will have very little rain. That is why in the dry season we experience such drought, because it is not making enough rain for us, right? So it has it purify the air purification, also greater interception. So it recharges the water table. So when you have trees that have canopies, the canopy would cause interception on the leaves, and then of course infiltrate, so you get this recharge of the water table, right? So they have provide sanctuaries for flora and fauna, maintains biodiversity of the region. So all of those things, and they talk about could maintain traditional livelihoods, including hunting, ecotourism, which can earn foreign exchange. Retaining the forest can also reduce erosion and control flooding on foothills. Everybody understand that? Very good. Very good. Very good responses. Excellent. The next question is, you are asked to sample a 300-meter stretch of vegetation using a bell transect. How would you collect and present the data for this? How would you collect and present the data for this? So people who did bio, I think you all would have gone out and do some sort of vegetation in terms of data collection, right? You all should be familiar in how you do this bell transect. A 300, so they ask you are asked to sample a 300-meter stretch of vegetation using a bell transect. Describe how you would collect and present the data for this study. Ayola, what happened? So you are asked to do a 300-meter belt transect to survey a 300-meter stretch of vegetation using a belt transect. how would you collect and present the data? So think about your IAs. Well, how do you present data? Okay, if you couldn't figure out the first part, at least try to answer the second part, right? In your exam, you also have to be smart, right? Violet, I understand that. Okay, but you all should have had done Bell Transact or at least review it. I know with you all, I really didn't think. Adela, I think we went through this. We went through this very briefly because I didn't think they was bringing map in such details as they have it. But right, so decide which sampling method to use. Very good. Then place your belt transact according to the reading length, very good, and width for the vegetation in the area. Yes, Wes. So you have to decide on an interval. So let us say you want to do a belt transact. With the belt transact, you can do a line, a straight line, or you can also implement quadrants, right? Um, I'm really trying to find this. I believe in the book. In the book, for some reason, I remember. So you put the line. Remember when you would have done like a beach profile and you measure the distance, right? It is the same thing. So you're gonna do the 300-meter distance, right? And then you're gonna divide that into intervals. So you're gonna put a 1 meter interval or a 2 meter interval. You decide because they ask you how to do it, right? And then you can either do a line transact where you just survey on either side, both left and right of the line. You identify the amount. So you normally look at species abundance, species diversity in terms of the vegetation, or you can use the quadrat method where sometimes it is you throw the square or the frame right again either side that would pick up the species. So you pick intervals. Very good, Amanda. Amanda, you want to elaborate? So Wes, that is correct, right? Yes, but it is a straight line and you are doing on either side. You understand that? So let us see what the report is saying. The report is saying, let me see if I can pull up what the report is saying. Right? They said the belt transect was not well known as a technique for collecting data on vegetation, right? But students earn mark for describing measuring the 300-meter transect to be surveyed by collecting data at either random or systematic intervals. So systematic would mean that you actually choose a particular interval or it can be random. Characteristic species within the belt were recorded at fixed intervals at either 1 meter or 2 meter to the left and to the right of the transit line, right? Some students also talk about the quadrat method where you select data points to collect characteristics such as the name of species, number of occurrences, the percentage of species cover. And then, of course, you're going to tabulate your information. You can do it in the form of bar graphs. Um, you can probably also do um, line graphs, right? So just remember how you present data, like with your eye. Does everyone understand that? Well, They said belt transect. So belt transect is really the line, right? The line method. So I don't think you should use quadrats. Use the line method that they told you. But they will just say that students were more familiar with quadrats. Everybody understand that? Is that clearer now? That is something they like to bring. Okay, the next question is name and locate three types of land use found on the map. So when you talk about land use, what do you refer to on the map? Land use. What is land use? Annalise not here. So on a map, when they refer to land use, what are you looking at for land use? What is classified as land use? So land use is how the land is used, right? Violin queen. Oh, how the land is used. Not just cultivation, right? Cultivation is one. So it can also be industrial, agricultural, what else? So this question is really asking you, it can be recreation, it can be residential, it can be commercial, manufacturing, industrial. So you now have to look on that map and look for basically the economic activities, the type of economic activities. Everybody cool with that? So agriculture in terms of cultivation is just one, right? Wes? Good. Agriculture, residential, industrial, recreational, commercial, right? All of those are land uses. Yes, residential, of course. Residential, of course, is a main land use too, right? TXC really doing students an injustice, you know. If you know how these people has get me so mad, how they expect you all during this whole pandemic time to even do maths if you was. Let me not start. All right. So they said that students lost marks, right, when they identify three types of agricultural activity. So that is definitely what you should not do. Make sure you identify the types of economic activities in terms of like if you see manufacturing or industrial sites, look at residential, look at recreational. If it's forestry, it could be, tourism or like a beach area. Remember that, right? Tourism as well. The last question on the map is woo, suggest map evidence only three reasons why most of the economic activity is concentrated in the northwest area of the map. So, in terms of economic activity, they are asking you here factors that influence the the location of economic activity, or factors that influence the location of a site. And when we look at factors that influence the location of a site, um, well, they just say reason for the economic activity. So in this case, it could be both the site, which is the physical features of that site, the physical characteristic, or it could also be the surrounding areas. So, what are some things that you know? So we know one of the most common, the common answer with respect to this is what? When you often have factors that influence insights is what? Okay, good. Topography. So topography would mean flat land, right? Flat land, or whether it's gently sloping land, um, industries, yes, but you also need to look at, oh nice, access to raw materials. If you can see certain things, right? Rivers, the presence of rivers in the area would suggest um water availability. You look for sources of energy, transportation in the forms of communication in terms of roads, so that you will be able to take your, if it's goods or products, whatever, right? Um, so rivers, gently sloping land, or land which is flat usually, right? Present, if you can locate a market, right, for people to sell their produce, right? Labor. So the presence of what you normally see is like estates, and you see houses nearby, which would suggest labor supply, right? Other industrial. So if you see that, um, communication services. Um, so remember, access to ports, excellent. Access to raw materials. So you look for harbor. You're gonna look for rail. Remember, some of the maps would have rail, which would suggest transport, access to markets, right? Um, Estates, where you would see, sometimes you would see settlement, and as labor supply. So remember those things. So that is what the question looked like for the Mapwork for 2018. Do y'all want us to look at another map another map question? We can look at another map question. Do y'all want me to look at another map question? Let me look for another map question. Right. So the other one that we have is 2016. So you can pull up 2016 if you have it. So let me go down to the, I'm just trying to find the 2016. Right, so 2016A. Let me see if I have this particular map, boy. And they can sometimes bring synopsis charts in this section too. So this one was a synoptic chart I prefer, and the map is Port Antonio. I have that map, so that is good. We could look at that. Leanne, okay, I would try. And oh, Spearman's rank. Yes, I can. Spearman's rank is wow. My students can tell you all. I drill them with that. I hope that they don't make mistakes on the exam. Y'all, right? Yes, please bring back the people maps, please, tomorrow. Y'all have Port Antonio on you. Bring up Port Antonio if you have it. Let me see if I can bring up this map. This is 2016, right? Why am I not seeing? So I'll spend a little time with you also. Whatever people want to go through, I will try to go through as much as possible, right? So unit two is a synoptic chart, right? They're going to ask you to identify the weather system. So you should be able to say whether it's a low pressure system, high pressure system, if it's a hurricane, so forth. So let me pull up, study the figure on page 3. So sometime, right. This is this is which one? So I am not seeing, I'm not seeing the, you're seeing the actual um page 3, which two tropical weather system X and Y follow. All right, so can you all see this this thing upside down? Oh boy. What are you all seeing here? Can you all see it? Wow, it is upside down. Can you all see the, can you all see it? What systems are those? Pull up. Do you all have the 2016 past paper? I gave you all. Let me see if I can zoom in a little bit. All right, so this is X. This is X. X is what? So that line with that triangle is what type of front? Oh geez, I just tell you all what it is. So what type of front is it? What type of front is it? You have to know. So that is a, this one is X. So X, right? The line with the triangles is what? So you have to go under your weather symbols. You have to know these things inside outer, these symbols. Anybody? Cold, very good. It's a cold front, right? And the other one is, this is what? So I think Adela stated it already. It's a low pressure system. And what type of low pressure system, right? They have a symbol in the inside. So this is 2016. So that little symbol there in the middle is what? What symbol is that? You all should know that symbol by now, huh? That is the symbol for what's happening right now in the Caribbean, or what just passed us by in the Caribbean. Hurricane. Very good. So that is a hurricane, the eye of the hurricane. Very good, right? So that is showing you all the it's a hurricane. The symbol is hurricane. So with synoptic charts, you have to know the symbols. If you don't know the symbols, then you will not be able to read what they're asking you. That is so 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 crucial, right? So that is very very crucial. Yes, so you're seeing, of course, because it's a hurricane, you will have continual rainfall, right, Adela? So always make sure you pinpoint the main symbols, right? Very good, Carissa. Very good. So let me go through the other part of the question now. So now to the top. Oh, geez. Right? Identify X and Y, state the atmospheric system in the center of the weather system Y. So remember that is what I was just asking you all. So you already identified that it was a hurricane. Six compare six elements of the weather station at A with the weather station at B. So you're comparing the elements of the weather station at A and B. So if you go back to here, this is B here, and this is A on the other side. Everybody seeing A and B? This is upside down, but importantly, you're comparing both of them, and you need to know the symbols. You need to know the wind direction. Remember, one short stroke is 5 knots and a long one is 10 knots. So remember that, and remember the hand pointing in whichever direction, that's the wind direction. Remember your symbols for rainfall. Um, Cloud cover is what eighths, right? To remember that, and that is 6 marks. So that is a lot of marks for just um, identifying that, right? So that is what they ask you all to do for that. Is that straightforward enough? Do you all have the two? Right? So that is what they're asking you all to do for that question. You have to know the symbol. So let's move on to the other one. They said, imagine that the weather system Y is moving from the east to the west. Describe the changes in each of the six weather elements that would be experienced at station S during the passage of the system. So they want you to look at the weather system on the map below here. And they said if the system is moving from the center of it and moving to S, like they want you to explain. So now you look at the weather elements over at S to help you, and of course with the passage of Y, which is the hurricane. So it's moving from east to west, describe the scene in each of the six weather elements that would be experienced at station S during the passage. So the six elements. So this entire question again, right? You have temperature, rainfall, cloud cover. You need to know all of that and rainfall. So the elements. If you haven't committed the elements to your memory yet, try and do that. What is the answer for 1A? 1A, X and Y. 1 X is the cold front, and Y is a low pressure system with a hurricane. So the low pressure system is the hurricane. You follow that? Then they ask you to state the atmospheric pressure in the center of the weather system. Why? So the atmospheric pressure, you would have to given the actual amount you all realize that. So you're not just stating hurricane, but you're given the actual millibars in the center. So that is 966, right? That would have been the atmospheric pressure. So let us see what the report is saying, right? So candidates were expected to, ooh, why did that rotate? Right? Candidates were expected to identify a cold front and a hurricane, right? The center was 966 MB. That's what I just told you all. Then they were to ask the description of the elements of the weather before and after the cold front and the hurricane. So you all has to learn that in detail. The map now that they ask you to look at is the second half of the question is the Port Antonio map. Identify and locate three types of economic activities in the area west of Easting 08. Yes, atmospheric pressure is measured in millibars. Millibars. Yes. So I just call it out. Was you following? Are you with me now? So X we said was a cold front. Y hurricane. The atmospheric center was nine. Look at here. 966 MB millibars. That is what atmospheric pressure is measured in, right? 96 MB. And then, of course, you have to describe the weather elements. Now they're asking you about the types of activities. Name three economic activities. So when you're looking at economic activities, you can identify primary, secondary, tertiary. So look at the map. If you all have the map, the Port Antonio map, look at the map. If you don't, well, I would just tell you all the answers. But um, what are some activities you can identify? Rashanda, Annalise, do you all have these maps? Do you all have this Port Antonio map? Right. So I have the map here. So when you go to the map, right, three different economic activities in the area west of Easting 8. So you look at Easting 8, and Easting is the vertical lines, and then you just look west of that. So you're looking at the entire extract west of it, and then you identify economic activities. So tell me, what can you see west of the map? From 8 go down. From Eastern 8 go down. Economic activities, remember, if you also look at the coastline and you see coral reefs in the key, you can look for hotels, and you could use tourism as an economic activity as well. Remember that. You're looking for agricultural activities, you're looking for industries, you're looking for anything that indicates economic activities. Even quinary and quaternary, if you have research institution, educational facilities, you can state that. Do you all have any idea? What is it? You don't think so? All right, let us look at what they said. So you would see here, most were able to select from primary, secondary, tertiary, and quaternary activities and give their grid reference. Remember, when they ask you to identify things on the map, always give a location as well, grid reference or name, right? So that you get your full marks. So always look at it. You would be able to see there are many things on the map, right? So you would see there's a factory, there's a wharf at the factory, right? Um, you're seeing, you all don't have this map for the Port Antonio. Okay, no problem. So you just identify the economic activities. You all know what they are. Just look under the different categories: primary, secondary, tertiary, quaternary as well. Don't miss out that, because you all are no longer in Form 5. You are in 6. So they expect you to identify quaternary industries as well. And then they ask you three reasons why tourism developed in the area from Crab Point 063705 eastward to Alligator Head. So factors that would influence tourism. What do you think are some factors that would, or reasons that would result in an area becoming a tourism location, right? So on the report here, you all don't have that map, fine. On the report, they are saying that what they are saying is that students right? Marks were lost because they did not adequately identify the type of economic activity. So if you say primary, then you say agriculture, you say secondary, you say the factory, and you identify its grid reference, factory located in grid reference or 8, 60, or 70, whatever the factory, if you see tourism, right? And you see the other question was a tourism question. So you can even know what type of economic activities you have based on the question that follows. So always pay attention to that. So they're asking you about now factors that would have influence or reasons that would have influenced tourism or that area becoming tourism. Tell me what you think. So this is from tourism. You use your knowledge of your theory to help you your 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 modules in terms of tourism economic activities to help you answer when you have to give reasons, right? This is the application of it in the map book now. What are the reasons or factors influencing location? All right, so it may have cultural sites, ecotourism, natural forest, coral reefs, good, right? Infrastructure, beaches, biodiversity, yes, yes, yes. Excellent, beaches. So on this map, look in your key. Tourism, most likely when it's a map that has tourism, there are coral reefs off the coastline, and you will see that in your key, right? So make sure you look at that in the key. So what they said here is that there was some difficulty explaining why tourism have developed in the area. They neglected to state the presence of sites and facilities such as coral reefs to encourage water-based activities. The harbor, remember harbor, in these tourist countries, Barbados, Jamaica, they depend a lot on cruise tourism. So they talk about the harbor for docking of cruise ship, the historic places of interest, such as Folly Ruin or ecotourism on the varied landscape over 15 kilometers, features such as islands, reefs, and mountainous hinterland. So you all are on the right track. So remember just to look at it on the back. Annalise, I don't want you taking that leap of faith going out there on this business tourism. Be simple and look for the ones that you know, like the coral reefs, the ecotourism site, historical sites, infrastructure, like the harbor for cruise tourism, etc. All right, don't go for. I always tell you, go for the main answer first, and then the other things that come to mind, you can put them, but go for the most obvious, right? Um, and then they ask you to compare the distribution of banana plantation and mixed or scattered cultivation in the map extract. When we're talking about distribution, what do we explain again? When I tell you all about cruise tourism, what how are you explaining that? Cruise tourism. Not is it cruise what is it? Not cruise tourism, sorry, what is it? Distribution. How do you describe distribution? Let's go. How do you describe distribution? You're looking at plantation and scattered cultivation. Distribution, what do you pay attention to? Distribution. Distribution of the question is compare the distribution of the banana plantations and mixed or scattered cultivation in the area of the map extract. So I'm asking you distribution. Tell me. Hello. So when you're looking at distribution, what are the key things you're looking for? The distribution is the location of where things are located. It's the spread, right? So you are looking at the location and you are looking at the spread. So what are you gonna look at? How is it scattered on the map? So you also have to talk about whether it's evenly or unevenly distributed, whether it's sparse or dense, right? Yes, you're giving me answers. Yes, but remember, you need to look at whether it's distributed along rivers, whether it's distributed along um, flat land, or is it distributed on steep slopes. So you also give the answer with respect to the factors that would affect the location in terms of distribution. So you talk about it's evenly distributed along the rivers, or sometimes you see vegetation along rivers, or it is on flatland or on slopes. You all understand what I'm saying? You all good with that? Yes, evenly and unevenly distributed. You're looking at whether they are along rivers, the relief of the land, those that are along the coast, things like that. Dense distribution sparse. I think you all understand that, right? Is West there still? West, you following? Because I'm going to go into Spearman's rank. There's a Spearman's rank question that is next. The last question on the map is comment on three differences in economic development between the coast and the interior of the area covered by the map. So obviously, um, y'all was just giving some of these answers. So the coastal area gonna be more developed because of course most of our coastal areas in the Caribbean, they are near to harbors, right? It is flat, it is easier to construct roads, highways, right? And that is why it tends to be more developed. The land is flat there, there's the presence of harbors, whereas inland, of course, it may be heavily forested, um, difficult to clear, more costly to build roads through mountainous areas. You're following me? So you see here, distribution, in terms of distribution of banana plantation, they talk about is restricted to lowlands such as river valleys, to the widespread or mixed cultured cultivation in other locations, including lowlands, coast, steeper slopes. For the one where the last one, three differences in economic development. Um, they said that candidates had general ideas, but they were poorly expressed. Right? They said at times there were description of the course followed by description of interior rather than explaining the varied economic activities on the coast compared to the mainly agricultural interior. Larger settlements, which implies greater demand for services, a larger labor force compared to few agricultural activities in sparse, settled interior, or several points of interest on the coast compared to the interior. So at the coast, right? Remember, the coast is more developed. It serves a larger population. So you have to answer the questions with respect to that. You all understand that? You're following that, right? So they want you to not just compare that the coast is flat and so forth, but you need to say that there's greater economic activities along the coast, right? The presence of the harbor, um, infrastructural development, and therefore larger settlements on the coastline demands greater services, fewer agricultural activities in the sparse interior. That is why it's less developed, right? There's less economic activity. There's a less demand for services. Excuse me. All right, so let us move on to the last question under the map work section here. They went on to disparities, development and disparity. And real nice question. You know how I love my Spearman's rank. You're ready, you're ready, you're ready. I don't think you all did this one, you know. You all did this one? Did you all do the 2016 Spearman's rank? Let us do it. Let's do it together. Just for revision, Wes was asking me earlier to go through Spearman's rank. So let us go through that. I don't think you all did this one. This is 2016. We did a lot, but I don't think girls you all did this one. Annalise, Adela, Amanda, Roshanda, you all could answer me. We didn't do this one. Sweet. There's a nice thing. I see how God is working mysterious ways. I got one that we didn't do. So nice. This will refresh your memory. I don't want you all to make any mistakes. So, what is Spearman's rank? You have to know the formula. Can you write the formula for Spearman's rank in the chat for me, please? For those who don't know it, write the formula. Hi, Isa. Isa, you now came in. You probably you joined a bit late, but you can always go back to it to see what we did. I don't think we did it either. It looks a little strange. All right, so drop the formulas for Spearman's rank for me. Oh, Asa, this is my form six girls now. Okay, nice, nice, nice. Adela, I like how Adela writes it out. Adela can't use his symbols. Very good, Justin. Right? N and Q minus N. Excellent. So the first step in Spearman's rank, when you get this Spearman's rank, is that you have to rank the data. Right? Here they gave us four sets of data. Let us see what is the question. So the question says to state the null hypothesis for income per capita and life expectancy. State that for me in the comment. What is the null hypothesis? State the null hypothesis for the relationship between income per capita and life expectancy. Null is always in the negative, right? So remember that null is always in the negative. Thank you for the formulas. Now state the null hypothesis for state the null hypothesis. for the relationship between income per capita and life expectancy. Good. There is no relationship between income per capita and life expectancy because the null is always in the negative, right? The alternative hypothesis would be there is Annalise, you can also put in there is no significant relationship, right? So put in that significant there. There is no significant relationship. The alternative would be there is a significant relationship, right, guys? Good. Comment on the relationship between income per capita. Comment on the relationship between income per capita and adult literacy for the countries listed. So comment on the relationship between income per capita and adult literacy. So this one, the Spearman's question they give you here is more interpretation. So I like that because we really didn't um did a question like this with the interpretation. Comment on the relationship between income per capita and adult literacy for the listed countries. So let us look at that. Income per capita and adult literacy. What can you say about it? Wow. Damn. What will you say? Are you seeing that there? Comment on the relationship between life expectancy and adult literacy. Yeah, you have to look at them. Okay, so Adela, that is not necessarily true, right? I oh Jesus, keep rotating this thing. Sorry. High income per capita and adult literacy. Look at that. If you are to just look at the figures, would you say that there is a significant relationship? Because look at Guyana. Do you all realize Guyana has the highest literacy rate in the Caribbean? But look at their income per capita, it's very low, right? Haiti has a very low income per capita. And look, their literacy is at 62, Belize 6,000, Jamaica 86. So, what would you say in terms of relationship? Think about it in terms of if you even before you calculate Spearman's rank and you look at it, you can look at the figures, compare the both. Do you think that there would be a significant relationship between the two variables, or would you accept the null? The null is there is no relationship. What do you think? Think about it. Is West there? Right. So you accept the null, right? In this case, accept the null. Good. You will accept the null, right? Because you're not really seeing a significant relationship, right? There's no significant relationship. So therefore you are seeing that there are countries, right? There's no, so accept the null. Good. There's not really, you are not really seeing a trend where high income per capita countries correlates with high adult literacy rate, because you see in Guyana has one of the lower income per capita and their literacy rate is the highest, right? So in the reports they said here, right, 50% of the students stated there is no relationship between income, and that is good. Many were correct in stating that a strong positive relationship existed in between income per capita, and while a weak inverse relationship existed for life expectancy and poverty index. I don't understand how they're saying that is a strong positive correlation. That from the data that you have there, for some of it, if you look at the balance of it, it's like almost half and half. So, you know, I would not have said a positive, strong correlation. But let us see how much variables in here. One, two, three, four, five, six, seven, eight, nine. It's quite possible. Probably. That is tricky, what they're saying. All right. Um, briefly describe the differences in relationship between life expectancy and poverty index among the countries listed. So now you have to look at life expectancy and poverty. So life expectancy and poverty. Life expectancy and poverty. So in the CXC reports, y'all, they're saying that um, a strong positive existed for income per capita and adult literacy. I do not think that is so. I wouldn't think that is so. But you know what is nice? We can actually calculate the Spearman's rank for it to see. Right? So we're gonna do that. Um, and so now they ask you all to look at the relationship between life expectancy and poverty. Sometimes CXC does really surprise me. Life expectancy and poverty now. So poverty and life expectancy, you seeing, you can have a high poverty rate but your life expectancy can still be high, right? A high poverty rate like Haiti still live to 60 something, Belize 17.5, Jamaica, Guyana, with the exception of Sierra Leone. That's the only country that we see have like 50 years, but the rest. So they said, right? So in this case, this one is where they said there is an inverse weak relationship between life expectancy and the poverty index. So it is an inverse relationship between life expectancy and poverty. So in this case, what you're seeing here is that I would even go to say it's the same thing, in this case, it's a weak inverse relationship. And at least in terms of saying it's a significant relationship, um, you can't really say it's a significant relationship because remember, looking at the figures, what you're seeing there is that you have countries with high poverty, right? High poverty and high life expectancy. So that is why they said it's an inverse relationship. So even though you have a high poverty level, you can also live long. So it's not just dependent on low poverty. You understand that? So let us do two things. Let's calculate, since they gave us these things, let us calculate the the Spearman's rank correlation coefficient for income per capita and adult literacy. I would love to see what the relationship really is. So you are ranking it. Everybody remember how to rank? And this one looks straightforward because there's not numbers with the same thing. So you rank from highest to lowest. So rank the data for me. Oh, okay, no relationship, right? So in this case, you refute the null. You refute the null. Good. Can we rank the data? Rank the data for me quickly. So West, when you do when Spearman's rank, you rank from highest to lowest. So number one, Trinidad. Two would be Saudi Arabia. Three, Barbados. Four, St. Lucia. Belize five. Jamaica six. It's already in ranked, right? So income per capita is already ranked correctly. Everybody agree with me? Income per capita and adult literacy. I want to see what they were saying about strong positive relationship with adult literacy. I want to see if that's correct, what they said in the report. So you'll see how high it is. Income per capita and adult literacy. So it's already ranked. Trinidad is one, Saudi Arabia two, Barbados three, St. Lucia four, Belize five, Jamaica six, Guyana seven, Haiti eight, Sierra Leone nine. Adult literacy rates now. Who is number one? Guyana is number one. Trinidad is number two. So set up the table for me. So you have to do a table, right? West, you rank in the data, income per capita, and adult literacy. So we did the first one already. We did adult literacy. We not sorry, we did income. Now we're looking at adult literacy. Rank that for me. Right, Barbados is number one. Rank it. Barbados is number one. Thanks for the correction. Guyana is number two. Trinidad is number three. You're finished with the rank? Let me know if you're finished with the rank. finish? All right, so let us see. All right, so let us go through it now. So for the second rank, Trinidad, sorry, you have number one, Barbados, number two, Guyana, number three, Trinidad, number four, St. Lucia, number five, Jamaica, number six, Saudi Arabia, number seven, Belize, number eight is Haiti, and then number nine is Sierra Leone. Everybody get that? Is that correct? Is that correct? Now find D. Now find D for me. Now find D for me. D and D squared. D and D squared. Good. So D and D squared now. Let me just type it up so that people who are still working it out will have the correct answers. You're working it out? Okay, Annalise, let us wait till other people finish. Wes, you finish? Anybody else finish with the with the D and D square? Annalise, Annalise, you made an error. You made an error. St. Lucia is 4 and Jamaica is 5. You made an error. St. Lucia is 4. 4 and Jamaica is 5. So switch that. St. Lucia is 4, Jamaica is 5. Anybody else saw that? And then Saudi Arabia is 6, Belize is 7. Then Haiti is 8 and Sierra Leone is 9. So, Annalise, you have to be careful in the exam. Remember that. Remember that. You all need to be very, very careful when you're doing Spearman's run. And this can come in any one of the it can come in Mapwork and it can come in Module 3. So please correct that. The rest of you all, I hope you're all working on it. Let me know when you're done. If you finish, press done so I don't want to show the answer and you all are not finished. Wes, did you make that error as well? Nick, Nicole, I did CXC earlier today. So check on the YouTube live. You would see it up there. All right, good. Good, Annalise. Adela, you finish? You have the rankings correct, right? All right. So when you finish, just type finish so I can pull up the answer here for you all to take down. All right, done. Let's go through it. Um, Let me share. All right, so D. Let me share the another. Right. So you're seeing my screen now with the answer? No. Can you all see this? Right. So D. 1 minus 3 is 2 minus 2. 2 minus 6 is minus 4. 3 minus 1 is 2. 4 minus 4 is 0. 5 minus 7 is minus 2. 6 minus 5 is 1. 7 minus 2 is 5. 8 from 8 is 0. 9 from 9 is 0. Right? Everybody got that correct for D squared? Everybody got that correct? You all got it correct? Let me know if you all got it correct. Is that correct, Annalise Tanadella? D squared now. Minus 2 squared is 4. Minus 4 squared is 16. Right? Um, 2 squared is 4. 0. 2 squared is 4 again. 1 squared, 1. 5 squared is 25. And then 0. Now you get summation. Summation is is adding all of that. So what is the summation now? Did you all get 54? When you sum that, you're supposed to get 54. Did you get that? Let me know if you get that. And now you plug in into the Spearman's run. So it is 1 minus, you always put your 6 outside. Summation is 54, right? Over, divided. N cube is how much? 9 cube minus 9 is 9 cube, right? This is 9 cube. Very good, Annalise. 9 cube is how much? 9 cube minus 9. 9 cube is 729 minus 9. That is how much? So find 6 by 54 is how much? Everybody following that? So how much is this now? So it's 324 over 720. And that is 0.45, right? 1 minus 0.45 will give you 0.55. How you get 0.45? It's not 0.55? Oh, 0.55. Good. That's the final answer. Good, Annalise. Very good. Right? That is good. So, when CXC says a positive strong correlation, it is just after the significant 0.50 value. That ain't so significant, and we have to look at the number of samples. Remember that level of significant table I gave you all? If you look at it for 9 samples, it will tell you how significant it is. I have to look at that. You know, they just get me mad with this kind. 0.55 is not very strong. If you have it closer to 1, remember that is a strong positive. It has a positive relationship, but to say that it is strong or significant, that is weak. Anyways, let me not quarrel on the live. Everybody understand? If you want practice, you can practice with the other one. How the rest of you all did with that? So you can also calculate poverty and life expectancy. If you need a little practice before the exam, calculate poverty and life expectancy. So the correct answer is 0.55, right? And there's a positive relationship in terms of significance. That ain't so significant. So I don't know why it is CXC wanted to put that in their review. I think they made an error, right? So just I know that you could always look at your data and you can tell before whether there would be a relationship or not, watching the variables, the number of variables and how close how it is. You could always tell the correlation. So very good. Um West, there is something called a significant table, right? And when you're doing Spearman's rank, you need a certain amount of samples for the data set to be considered valid, right? In terms of validity, you need at least 15 variables, right? But in this case, you had 9. So, of course, it is obviously going to be skewed. So, I like to say that 6 or 7 is like moderate. When you have closer to 9, you know, that is when it is. Okay, Annalise, no problem. You're cool with the map work? Is that okay with the map work, Annalise? Is that fine? In terms of vegetation, how you would answer vegetation, economic activities, disparities. They're gonna ask you to compare one side to the other side. Normally, that's how they ask you with disparity. So look at that. I think somebody was asking about industries. I'm not too sure if the person is still here, but what with respect to what in industries? Go through the reports. I can try and send it for you all. If you need it, just message me, send me an email, and I would message you. I will send you an email with the report. The report is good to go through. Of course, sometimes like the little error they make, but it's generally good when you answering the question to see a guideline, right? Um, so thanks everyone for joining me. I wish everyone the best tomorrow. The map, just be careful when you're looking at the map to always make a reference using grid reference to, if they ask you to locate something on the map. With respect to vegetation, remember what a belt transect is: a line where you sample on either side, you select intervals. Then you have the quadrat method where you drop it. You can be systematic or random, and you identify species diversity, abundance, type, etc. Right? Economic activities, you identifying all the way up to quaternary. Yes, I will send it in the WhatsApp chat for you all. Right? Quaternary activities, you look for government, educational, higher learning institution that would suggest that. Remember, land use is not just agriculture, but all the other things like recreation, settlements, those things. And with disparity, they can bring a Spearman's rank, or they could ask you, like how they ask you to interpret Spearman's rank from off a table, and they could ask you to describe one disparities in one part of the map to another. So you're going to look for like development disparities in terms of economic activities and all of that. Is that okay? So get some revision of the maps. Go through your climate. The climate synoptic charts comes all the time. Go through the symbols, revise the symbols, revise the symbols. Commit it to memory tonight if you don't know the symbols, because you're gonna lose the marks. 6 marks for one element at a station, right? 6 elements that make up a station. So you have to know all of them. So remember that. I hope this session was helpful. Was it helpful? Message me, send me an email if you all need to know anything in particular. I am going to sign off now. Have a good night.